Booyah!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. We're going to stay in a little bit of politics, but man, this is a feel good story. And one, if you're in Alberta, it really shows the benefits of voting for and bringing in an MP or premier that essentially wants to actually work for the people. And of course, you know, all of automatically, if you looked at the video title, we're talking about Danielle Smith. And of course, she's showing once again why she's the most capable premier in this country. I wish she'd run for prime minister when she's done. We'll see, I guess. But one thing Danielle's been battling for quite some time is affordability. She's talked about utilities. She's talked about how she's going to save people money. She's talked about going against a lot of the practices the federal government tries to put on us in terms of carbon tax, in terms of restrictions. But now Danielle Smith tackles a different industry. She tackles the insurance industry. Now, for anybody who's not in Alberta, insurance is privatized in Alberta. It is not like government-based insurance like ICBC or Autopac if you're in Manitoba or British Columbia. Again, I apologize if I don't know the names of the other insurance companies in other provinces. I'm just aware of those ones. But essentially, what happens in Alberta is that insurance companies can charge you whatever they want. They can say, well, we had a lot of claims last year for hail damage, so everyone's rates are going up. And over the last few years in particular, we've seen insurance rates go to extreme levels. I can tell you right now that I personally have a very clean driving record. I have no insurance claims, aside from a stolen vehicle from about, let's say, 5 years ago, 6 years ago at this point. But nothing at fault. And I pay roughly just over $300 a month for insurance with a clean record. I can't imagine what those with tickets pay. Um, get the straight good before the news officially hits the street. Now, of course, this happened last Wednesday morning, but here's the short term plan of what Smith has unrolled to combat insurance price hikes. The long term plan will be fleshed out early in the new year, but the province's pause on auto insurance rate hikes is gone at the end of this year. Starting January 1st of 2024, Albertans with good driving records will see auto insurance rates increase by no higher than the rate of inflation was in September of that year. That's a maximum 3.7% hike on vehicle premiums. So again, 3% doesn't raise your insurance rates that much. It could go up by $6, $7 a month or something at best. A driver with a good driving record is defined as everyone except those with one or more at fault accidents in the last 6 years, any criminal code traffic convictions in the last 4 years, any major traffic convictions in the last 3 years, or more than one minor traffic conviction in the last 3 years. Meaning, if you have a clean driving record, you're going to pay less. And that's the way it should be. We shouldn't have to be responsible for other people's faults. Of course, insurance companies always worry about their bottom line. They worry about their shareholders. They worry about how much they're paying out. I know anytime you have to talk to insurance, um, I've found for the most part with my insurance company that when our vehicle was stolen, again, very easy to work with. But for the most part, insurance companies, look, they're a business. They don't want to pay out money if they don't have to. Under Smith's government plan, the province's automotive insurance rate board will have the power to tell individual insurance companies to return to drivers a portion of the premiums collected in those years where profits are significantly higher. The rate board will monitor carefully rate increases in 2024 to ensure they are reasonable and can be justified. That's the key there. I want justification as to why they're doing what they're doing. The rate board will also be able to review and possibly lower the rates of any insurer if necessary. In other words, the Automotive Insurance Rate Board will have more power to regulate the auto insurance companies operating in Alberta. Again, so it's not necessarily free reign or the Wild West, even though we're in the West. Smith government also hired deep thinkers to a deep dive into what places everywhere are going to get a grip on high insurance rates. As interim reporter on the Look, we will see Alberta government led by the end of the year. The final report is expected in the first 3 months of the new year. Nate Horner, the Smith government's budget boss, is also writing point on the insurance file. Horner says the probe into the best practices elsewhere will leave no stone unturned. The report is very sweeping. Everything is on the table, says Horner. They're looking at some different no-fault systems with government delivery, with private delivery. Horner says, they're looking at New Jersey, where they were absolutely the most expensive and had the worst track record, and they've really turned things around. He says they're looking at everywhere from Australian state of New South Wales to individual states in the US to other countries to other provinces. It's very sweeping, he says. The man responsible for overseeing insurance says the Premier has not been ideological in handling this file. She'd be the first one to tell us to make sure the report looks at everything. She just wants to be pragmatic. And for the Premier, self described lower of free markets, insurance is not a true free market. If you own and operate your vehicle, government says you must have insurance. I don't disagree with that. Especially if you drive around Calgary, you'll definitely know why you need it. I'm like the Premier. I don't like dabbing in markets, but this is not a free market. That's why Horner says they just want to make sure that the rate board has teeth to protect Albertans. And again, I agree with that. I think it's important. As for Smith's government's long-term fix in 2024, Horner says it has to look at costs. Although Horner insists he is not putting the cart before the horse and presupposing what the report will say long-term solutions to pricey insurance. He says that he says there has to be talk about the legal aspects around bodily injury. The next step will have to look at actually removing the cost. Questions like who can sue and when, if ever, and for how much. Again, with privatized insurance, it's not like in other provinces where it's government regulated. You're able to sue anybody for anything. You can say, oh, I sprained my knuckle during a rear strike to my car from being rear-ended. I'm going to sue for thousands of dollars. You go hire an ambulance chaser. Recent board rate survey says fewer than 1 in 5 Albertans have a high level of agreement when the idea auto insurance premiums are fair and reasonable. The same nose count found a general skepticism about the insurance industry's practices. There was a general frustration with rising insurance costs. I don't disagree. Calls for the rate board increased drastically this year. Those who say the Smith government is not doing enough and not going far enough, Horner says, the plan is going to protect the good drivers in Alberta, especially when we'll see where it takes us in the very near future. Of course, some insurance companies are expected to be unhappy. Good. Horner says they should be happy right now. After all, the government could have extended the pause on premium hikes. And again, I think that's fair. They're removing that barrier, but they're saying things have to be fair for the consumers. Again, price gouging never works for anybody. We see that when you talk about the carbon tax, when you talk about food, when you talk about mortgage rates, when you talk about everything that's happening in the country right now, any place we can save money is a good place. I understand skepticism when it comes to Danielle Smith's plan. However, when it's put to practice, I'm just happy we have a premier who's looking to actually save money in our wallets at the end of the day and look after her constituents. I applaud her efforts, and I eagerly await to see what happens later on with insurance. Let me know what you guys think down below. If you come from a province with government regulated insurance, do you see these same problems? Do you think this is a good thing? Do you think it's precedentially bad for a free market? Let me know your comments down below. If it's the first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. Make sure you're hitting that bar, click the bell for notifications, and join us live here on the channel every Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central for Friday Night Fringe, where we go over things like this, as well as politics, and everything we know coming up in the week ahead. We also have back and forth with our community. It's great to hear what you guys have to say outside of making these videos. I always look forward to listening to each and every one of you in those live streams. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and enjoyed this video. I'll catch you on the next one.